big discussion that we are going ahead and holding at 6 p.m. on our channel on NewsX. It is a joint initiative between NewsX and Business World. Joining me on the broadcast at this point of time is Anurag Batra, who's the Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Business World. Welcome on the show, Anurag. And also on the show, let me just introduce all the guests, and then we'll go ahead and dissect what exactly are we discussing. It's Akshay Gulati, who's the co-founder and CBO, ShipRocket, who joins me in the broadcast. So there's Sukhesh Madan, who's the CEO, Blaupunkt Audio India. Prab Paul, who's the co-founder and COO, Trace Cost, also joins me on the broadcast. So there's Dr. Soumitra Chakravarti, who's the CEO of Finovation, on the broadcast with me. So Anurag, it's great to have you on the show, and all the panelists that are joining me at this point of time. What's the theme of discussion that we're going ahead and holding at this point of time?
Thank you so much, Megha, for introducing the panelists. It's a pleasure to host the show with you. Let me introduce the guests to our topic. We're discussing when will the Indian economy be back in full bloom, and we would like to know why you think it will be back, whether in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. We also want to talk to you about demand, because that's the big elephant in the room. In certain categories, of course, there is a natural demand. We want to talk to you about liquidity. We want to talk to you about what has changed in your mind in terms of entrepreneurship. What are the new tenets that have got added, and how are you pivoting? And last but not the least, we want to know about your lockdown lessons. I think that's what let me start by asking Sukhesh, how have been your business in the last 6 months? What is the pivot you've taken, and where do you see your business going over the next 3 to 6 months?
All right, so thanks, Anurag. Actually, a lot of questions built into this single statement of yours. So let me first take the first part, which is how the business has been over the last 6 months. So first couple of months were really bad, of course, when this lockdown happened in last.
For the benefit of viewers, you can tell us what you do, so that
sure.
You know, it gives a context to them.
Absolutely. So Blaupunkt is the leading German audio brand, and this was established in 1923, almost 100 years back. Envent World, I represent Envent World. I am the CEO of Envent World, and Envent World has they own the Blaupunkt audio for Southeast Asia, so it's including India and neighboring countries. And we also have another audio brand called Thomson Audio. So practically we have 2-3 audio brands. Which audio brands here mean, just for simplification for our viewers, it starts right from an earphone, a typical wired earphone which sells around $500-600 and goes up to sound bars, tower speakers, Bluetooth headphones, earphones, etc., etc. So that's the entire plethora of things which we sell. Blaupunkt we are selling from last 3 years. Now, coming to your question, Anurag, couple of months were really bad. Of course, April was zero sale. May also was almost close to zero. But honestly, life has been good since then. From the business perspective, I think business has bounced back much better than what we expected. We were honestly very conservative in our ordering, in our hiring, in our lot of expansion plans. But we were, since maybe I think the blessing in disguise was we were selling more in the online channel. So our platform, our sale was like 70-80% was coming from online. And online, once it opens up, wasn't that badly impacted as the offline retail was, because we guys were not stepping out. We were not going to retail outlets to buy things. But online was doing okay. So we could survive. I think we had a reasonably decent run since we opened up, say by 20th of May onwards. That's where it is. But of course, what happened in these 6 months, we were extremely conservative, because when this happened, we were not prepared, and we were, and China was already struggling from where a lot of our things come. So we decided to be a little conservative in our new plan, new launches with our new products. And so that went still okay, because we had a lot of inventory when this happened. So we could sell for June, July, etc. But when now the demand is there, but the problem right now is we don't have enough stocks, because we didn't have
a supply side issue. Most industries right now have a demand issue, and some industries have a supply side issue because of lockdown, so on and so forth. What I would like to know from you is, of course, Blaupunkt is a luxury brand. I mean, it's upmarket, if not luxury, right? And pricing is not necessarily mass market, right? Tell us, when less is more, when we all have veered towards essentials being in our kitty of spending, how has your category done? And August, September for everyone has been good. Beyond Diwali, how do you see the demand?
Sure. So category, honestly, few of our products actually became essential because like all of us are now sitting in office, working from home. So we need all these earphones, headphones, etc. Then entertainment, cinema halls are all closed, so we guys are not stepping out. So then all of a sudden, sound bars connected with TVs become also essential. So that was like blessing in disguise, should I say? So that way it went well. I am honestly, I'm keeping my fingers crossed because somewhere for sure, a lot of people around us in our circles, friendly, they have lost jobs, they have their salary been cut and so on and so forth. So somewhere, some point of time, the impact will come in on our industry too. As of now, it's not there, but how long the run will last, we are just keeping our fingers crossed, to be honest.
Okay. And we'll come back to you and specifically look at what your numbers are September in terms of percentage. If you were in March at 100 and it went down to 20, 30 in the next few months where you are. So we'll get a sense of where the market is headed by looking at each one's number. Akshay, let me come to you. You are in the e-commerce segment. You can tell people about what you do, but e-commerce has galloped in the last 6 months and looks like, just to give you a US statistics, US was at, if 100 rupees were spent in retailing, 16 were spent on e-commerce over the last 20 years. In the last 6 months, that 16 has gone to 26. That's the rapid rise of e-commerce, just to give you a data point. Tell us how's been the business for you, where is it headed, and digital economy has been good for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're one of the few fortunate companies that have come out on the positive side of this pandemic. And again, our focus over the last few years and what ShipRocket does is basically we enable SMEs to go online, and we are a logistics aggregation platform. So for any small to medium-sized entrepreneur who wants to sell online, and even the large big brands, we help take care of the entire logistics, which is usually the most critical and toughest part of actually selling online. If you're selling on a large marketplace like Amazon and Flipkart, they take care of it for you. But if you're selling directly, you need an aggregator and a technology platform like us to be able to provide that same level of service to your customers. So for us, fortunately, business has been great. You asked percentages, so we're almost 200% of where we were pre-COVID. And I think from a demand side, everything has, things have been, more businesses are moving online, like you said, so things have been very positive. But I think the challenges on the supply side, which is from our courier partners, still remain. So while we may be pushing 2x the amount of parcels in the supply chain, unfortunately, it's probably taking 1.5x the time to be delivered to customers. So you could get a national delivery in India within 3 to 4 days pre-pandemic, and today it's taking anywhere from 5 to 10 days, depending on which part of the country you're in, whether there are localized lockdowns there. And I think that creates a lot of frustration and angst amongst a lot of people who use the platform, because a lot of them are actually selling online for the first time. They had been purely offline brands, or they had been purely marketplace brands, and now they're selling direct to consumers. And if something doesn't get to their customers within 4 to 5 days, the customers are anxious, the sellers are anxious. And I think the supply chain issues are only going to get more exacerbated this festive season, because you're going to see a record number of people buying online, because people are still scared to go out into the markets to buy, especially during the festive season when you'll find more people there, because the pandemic is showing no signs of receding. So our focus the last few months has actually been less on growth, even though the growth is happening. It's been more on how do we iron out all the supply chain issues to make sure that the sellers as well as the buyers actually have a pleasant experience transacting online. We make sure that we've introduced a lot of tech enhancements. We've got capacity booked with our courier partners in anticipation of what's going to happen this festive season. And most importantly, what we're trying to do is something we never really focused on pre-pandemic, but honestly, it's been a learning for us, is we're hand-holding all these new sellers who are selling online for the first time as to how this process works, what all things they need to take care of. For people who are selling offline, or people who are walking into their stores, they had never heard of an RTO, which is a return to origin, which is when a buyer actually refuses to accept the shipment. So they get shocked saying, I sent the order out to the customer, why has it come back to me? And there's a lot of hand-holding that needs to happen. So our focus has been, and any shipment that comes back to a seller, it's actually a double whammy for them, because they lose the shipping money, they have to pay freight 2 ways, and actually the product doesn't get delivered to the customer. So they never made the profit that they thought. So the unit economics of their business go for a toss. So our focus has been over the last 6 months is how do we basically educate our seller base. How do we work together with them to ensure that they are successful in the long term? Because in the short term, while the pandemic has created business opportunities, it's only if these people are successful online in the long term will businesses like ours continue to thrive, and theirs, because our success is very closely tied with how successful our sellers are online.
Akshay, thank you for giving a perspective and telling us while overall it is grown, there are issues that need to be ironed out. It is, if I may use the term, it's a patchwork pandemic. Different states have different times, and that creates confusion. But if you have to look at categories from the data you have, we've been talking about the K-shaped recovery, which means certain industries will grow faster and certain industries may not grow, may actually.
Sorry, I can't hear you. I've lost your.
Yes, thank you, Megha. Akshay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I got you till the K-shaped recovery part.
So I said, which sectors, what products and services are seeing most traction? Of course, Sukesh mentioned the technology product. We all need connectivity, whether it's for our children or our work, so on and so forth. So, of course, technology-related products, accessories, food is a, in some, not in your category, but overall in e-commerce that has grown, essentials. But tell us, give us some sense of some trends that tell us where the consumption of products and services is headed.
No, absolutely. I think in terms of trends that we're seeing on the platform is fashion accessories, fashion and accessories have been seen a very large growth. Within that, healthcare and beauty have seen a very large growth. More and more people are buying these products online. And what we attribute this to is a shift of people who used to go to the local pharmacies or their local supermarkets are just buying these products more online. And as a result, a lot of the online only brands are getting a lot more visibility. I think the one area where we are seeing the bottom end of that K-shaped recovery, where businesses have not picked up as much, is on the consumer durable side. So we used to sell a lot of lifestyle goods, consumer durables.
Maybe with Diwali that will change. We're 43 days away from Diwali.
So that's what we're expecting.
Days away from Dussehra. That may change soon.
And again, I think it'll change online. I think overall, when we think about offline plus online, the fact that people have lesser money in their pockets today, and that's a reality that we can't escape from, a lot of these bigger ticket purchases will probably be delayed. So we don't really focus on the luxury sector, so I can't really comment on that. But I think it's also what we found is the lower ticket items products priced between 500 to 1,000 rupees have seen a lot more traction on the platform. Sellers who are selling more expensive goods between anything that's 2,500 rupees up, we've seen some demand decline there. And that is something that I think will actually pick up during the Diwali season. But one of the categories I think is the higher priced consumer durables that we're seeing less and less flow through our platform today.
Thank you so much, Akshay. We'll come back to you. Let me bring in Sumitra Chakrabarti, who's an entrepreneur, who's a thought leader, and is also, if I may call, maybe in future, somebody who will contribute his bit to governance. So, Sumitra, tell us, what's your assessment of business and economy? How have been the last 200 days for you? And tell us, when do you think the Indian business and economy will be back in full bloom? You'll have to unmute yourself. Unmute is the second most popular word of 2020, first being COVID and third being mute. Yes.
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you. See, for example, we deal, my company basically deals with project management and environment and social audits across India. So we focus on social responsibility initiatives and sustainability to a great extent. So we are involved directly with the profitability of the companies because our revenues come only post-profit of the companies. So to be very frank, during the lockdown, I think we actually brought down our charges to a great extent, and we had enormous amount of impact on the ground. With my company and with our partners, we could impact 10 million people in 2 months' time directly by taking, creating a last mile connectivity for all help, aid required, including frontline workers and everybody. But I must thank the partners also, they roped in. If you frankly ask me about the industry thing, I think the huge segment that is going to take an impact is the MSME segment. And I think both in terms of what Akshay said and what Sukesh said, with with the supply chain and the sellers coming into in, I think the MSMEs had a great role to play. And right now, if you frankly ask me, 37% of these are actually on ventilator. And unless and until the ventilator is weaned off and they are taken down, step down, it is going to
mean that their financial health is fragile.
Absolutely fragile. And I think although the government had made a move by announcing that, re-announcing that 20 lakh crore package, but to extend a credit facility at this point of time, I don't think a lot of MSMEs would be really looking
forward. Income and repayment is under question, so they may not be open to taking a further loan.
Further loans.
Unless until it's a 0% loan, so on and so forth, and a long term.
Exactly. And so the vicious cycle is very simple. Now, I think what COVID has actually, at a very institutional and personal level, we have understood COVID situation as a very simplistic situation. The demand goes down, the entire industry framework changes, right? Unless and until the public spending increases, unless and until the government starts mobilizing public spending and money comes into the pocket of the consumer, where he starts moving around the cycle a bit, and the consumption drive goes high, it will be very difficult for the markets to see a turnaround. Now, what we usually get confused is with the fiscal and the monetary policy. I think what we are primarily focusing is on the monetary policy, but what we have to primarily focus is the fiscal policy, because the government spending actually is in fiscal policy. So unless and until the government being the largest player in the revival story, they have to actually start the spending cycle very fast. And once the consumption cycle starts, I think on more or less majority of the industries will actually be able to see some positive movement.
I totally concur on that.
Yeah.
So Mitra, I want to ask you a very direct question. This has been debate going on for 4 months. I've interviewed UK Sinha, I've introduced Mr. Damodaran. These are really big people in the financial services who understand liquidity, who understand ratings, sovereign ratings, they understand our paper ratings. Tell us, should we print more currency? What's your view?
As of now, if there is a crunch, I think you can print, but there's a limit to it. You can't recapitalize the economy by printing currency again and again.
But extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. We can impress upon rating agencies that our economy is fundamentally strong.
Yeah.
Indian entrepreneurs are fundamentally resilient, and this will create the return on this investment in terms of printing will create a GDP which will in some way compensate for printing. So, they may not downgrade our ratings that bad. And even if they do, we have to fundamentally build the buff. So what's your view? Give us a nuanced view.
To be very frank, Anurag, I think the rating agencies, first of all, to my limited capacity, I would not actually give all of them the transparency tag and the neutralized tag.
I agree. I think most of the rating agencies are very aligned to their interests.
Exactly.
And the rating framework is not geared up to take Indian economy strengths into account.
Exactly.
I fully concur again with you on that.
To that extent, Anurag, you would realize just a few weeks back, the World Bank actually brought down their ease of doing business ratings, because they were seeing that there's a great influence from China and other subcontinent countries to push up their movement. So, how the rating agencies behave, and liquidity is only one component of the rating agencies' observation. I think the taxation mechanism, this GST jostle around that is going on between the states and the center also needs to be resolved, because if you want investments, if you really need investments, you need to have the taxation structure very clear. The retrospective tax with finally the Vodafone winning, but the government is again planning to appeal against it.
The then finance minister went out to get companies into India investment. The prime minister has been going across and so positively, kind of telling the Indian story, which needs to be told, but also everyone knows that we are the fastest growing economy. But then you put in retrospective tax, and that sends a very negative message.
Absolutely.
So I'm totally again, and I'm glad that is getting solved. But really, India needs FDI. India needs investments in every sector, and government has been very progressive. While we need the stimulus, which is immediate fix, the government, by opening up the mining sector, has shown progressiveness. And my sense is there will be a package number 2, which will have again a stimulus. It would possibly be PM Modi's Diwali gift to us, or pre-Diwali gift to us, and will also again do a set of reform we show the Indian government's intent on making sure that we are competitive and integrated with the world. So I'm fully with you that, we have to be progressive. There has to be, the policy has to be, if I may say, there has to be certainty. We cannot have policy flip-flops. And I'm sure the government and the, the bureaucrats at the higher level understand that. And I have no doubt that in the next 18, 20 months, three things will happen. One is government, as you said, government spending will go up on infrastructure, on whether it's in healthcare, education, transportation, IT. Second is government will announce more reforms. And third, government will be sectoral in its approach. There are a lot of these sectors that haven't been addressed in the first package. And first package was, the objectives were a little different. I think subsequently, now you'll see sectoral focus. That's my sense. And I don't have a brief from the government or from anyone. I just sense that that's the way government is thinking. So Megha, I'd like to bring you into the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. My first question will have to be to Akshay Gulati, and I would like to be very, very keen in understanding how exactly you've gone ahead and spread the business even at the time of the pandemic. Like you already said, there has been a lot of demand with the e-commerce companies coming up and mushrooming at this point of time. Online being the key focus, there has been more capital that has already been injected into your company this particular year. So what's the coming trend? Is this going to be the new normal at the end of the day, and this is only going to grow? And if you could also speak to us about the industry, how big is the pie, and what is the chunk that Shiprocket goes ahead and occupies at this point of time, and how do you go ahead streamlining your way into going ahead and further occupying it at this maybe in the next 6 months to 2 to 3 years?
Thanks, Megha. So again, like I said, it's been a very, very challenging time, and it's been challenging just in terms of operations, right? Because moving goods from one place to another requires physical people to do the job amidst this pandemic when the workforce just hasn't been there. And even though we don't directly employ those people, we do it through our third-party logistics partners. The role that tech has played in being able to ensure smooth supply chains across this country has been critical, and that's what we power. Again, in terms of the industry, I think we've seen a fundamental shift. I think we've seen more people adopt e-commerce, and I think that's here to stay. It's accelerated the adoption of e-commerce in this country probably by 3 to 5 years. People who were used to buying offline are now buying online. It's also making them more comfortable paying online, which usually is the first reason why people don't want to actually purchase online, is the fear of their credit card details being on different platforms, even though cash on delivery is there. Now, and it's prevalent, we're finding prepaid modes of payment being adopted more and more. So if 70% of our volume was on cash on delivery before the pandemic, it's now 60%, which is not less, but a 10% change in prepaid modes of payment is a big shift. It probably would have taken us 5 years to get there if the pandemic hadn't been there. So there are definitely consumer behavior patterns that are changing and that are going to be there to stay. And I think businesses will have to adapt to that. So offline businesses will need to have an online presence because it's something that their consumers want, their customers want. And I think we're seeing that. Even like Dr. Anurag mentioned earlier, food has not been an important part of our business traditionally. We've seen so many local restaurants, so many local entrepreneurs who are in the food business actually reach out to us and say, hey, can you help us actually ship our goods to our consumers? Because even though we were running restaurants and it was an experience that we were selling, now we're actually selling our product, which is food.
Yeah, we're cloud kitchens now.
Exactly. And even though the restaurants have opened up slowly in places like Delhi, NCR, people have now, the cloud kitchens or the delivery part of their business is actually it's something that they've committed to long term. Earlier, they did it just to be able to pay the bills. They did it to be able to keep their employees employed and productive. And now I've spoken to entrepreneurs who say that the delivery business is far bigger than the restaurant business has ever been. And,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think yes, that has been a consensus. That has been a consensus for a lot of restaurateurs, and because the lot of gravity that comes into the database that is collected, and that has been an ongoing war with regards to the aggregators and the restaurateurs, and you've actually said this exactly the way it is. Akshay, coming back to you, Anurag raised a very important point. We had held a discussion about this last week itself with regards to the 1% cess that the government has gone ahead and imposed on e-commerce businesses. Well, what's your take on that?
Again, like I said, I think my take on it is not very positive. I think it's creating unnecessary burden on the industry. I think it's about who is making the e-commerce industry responsible for the taxation of SMEs or entrepreneurs. Is basically shifting the responsibility from the tax authorities to private businesses. I think it's going to create a lot of regulatory burden. But at the same time, the government needs more tax. I mean, in this part-time where incoming receipts, I think, are at an all-time low, I don't think they had an option to do it. I think the implementation of this, I think the devil is in the details, to be honest. The implementation of how you get e-commerce operators to be able to deposit this on behalf of SMEs who are spread across the country, some of them might not even be GST compliant. It's going to create a lot of fear in the minds of the small entrepreneurs, because they don't need a GST because they are below the limit that they need, and the moment they'll find that tax is now going to be deposited on their transactions, I think it's going to create a lot of fear. I think it still remains to be seen how this will get implemented in the grassroots and amongst the SME sector. We are taking it one step at a time. We are not an e-commerce marketplace, so it's not applicable to us, but we still see a lot of questions come from sellers. They call up our customer services and ask, hey, can you help me understand this? So we're obviously, as part of our seller education, we're helping them better understand the implications and ramifications on their business. But again, I think this next 30 days is going to be very critical to see how it gets implemented and the impact it has on SMEs in particular. I personally think it's unnecessary regulatory burden that is now being placed on the SME sector.
Akshay, we'll come back to you. The government may have to rethink that, because the pie may grow. You know, the last mile, the kirana store, the neighborhood merchant who will get e-commerce enabled will add so much to the growth of GDP, and actually the tax they may collect on the income may be much more than what can come through this 1% tax. Because it de-incentivizes everyone from going online, which is really not the direction we should take. Sukesh, as I said, we are 40 odd days away from Diwali.
Right.
We are sure that there will be some upsurge in demand because of Diwali. But tell me, IPL is happening, Diwali is around the corner, so there is supposed to be a upsurge. But do you see beyond November the demand staying at the same levels that you've seen in September, or you may see in October? Or do you have cautious optimism?
Yeah, I think your last two words really define the situation, cautious optimism. So things are honestly good, as I said earlier. For online, the Diwali has been actually shifted by 30 days from last 5-6 years, with that Flipkart Big Billion Day, which happened few years back. And since then, that has become, for online seller, that has become per se Diwali. So we honestly, the way it is right now, that we end up selling about 50% of inventory or our sales target on first Navratra, first few Navratras only. So for us, actually, Diwali is 2 weeks away, and that's what we are really gearing up. And we are also banking a lot on ShipRocket. We also have started selling online, and we sometime do ping Akshay also on these things. So that's what it is. But I am honestly, as I said earlier, we are really keeping our fingers crossed. Things are good so far, so good. It's what I can say. I am honestly, because as I said earlier, somewhere something will get him. This is a circle. This is I get money, I spend, you spend money, and then the circle keeps going on. So if the people are losing money, people are not making money, their businesses are not doing good, how long this circle will last? Some point of time it will impact a business like ours too. So we are still a little cautious in our inventory projections, planning, productions, etc. So we are worried, to be honest. We are worried that how the things will hold up after, say, 15th of November, etc. And will that demand stay? Will people get too conscious? I don't know. So it's I think you have devised a very good word, K-shaped recovery. So right now we've been on the right side of the K, but let's see.
Okay, Sukesh, it's good to be cautious about anything, while energy and enthusiasm are great attributes to have. I think one needs to be cautious. Sumitro, tell us what could go right for the Indian economy? We have sometimes focused too much on the negatives, what can go wrong? Tell us from here on what can go right for the Indian economy, and what could be the positives that are sometimes not highlighted.
So, Anurag, I would like to draw your attention to your last observation, which was very sectoral. I think what we are doing may not change quite a bit, but how we are doing what we were doing earlier is going to change quite a bit. So, and we are actually looking at e-commerce and all these platforms, but we got to realize that India exists in its villages. We are completely forgetting the rural income, because if you look at that income coming in, means, for example, for the first time in over 2 decades, the sale of toothbrush and toothpaste and combs are down. Now, this is something that we will not get to see on the data on a scale.
What's the reason, Sumitro? People are not brushing their teeth?
I think, they're using the toothbrush a bit longer, I think. Right. We Indians have
good analogy. Yeah. It's a good analogy for saving.
Yeah. So, we have a habit of squeezing the toothpaste irrespective of which strata we have.
Now they're squeezing the toothbrush too.
Now they're squeezing the toothbrush also. So I think what is happening here is, the spending, as rightly Sukesh pointed out, the spending is, people have become very, very cautious. They're not spending, they're very selective about what, they have started differentiating between need and want.
Yeah, so they are really, Indians are anyway very, very saving conscious.
Correct.
Save for the rainy day.
Right.
And now there is this, there is an extraordinary situation, and
Correct.
most people call it a black swan event, but
Exactly.
I would call it a grey rhino event, which means that the grey rhino appears more often than a black swan.
But
So,
Anurag, I would...
there may be another strain of virus.
Yes.
I hope not, but who knows? Never say never. After COVID, never say never.
And this is where it gets interesting, because we are all talking economy, but we are forgetting that all of us are talking economy because of the health. So we cannot be in complete denial of the fact that come winters, at least the scientific brains of the world are saying, that there is going to be some kind of an increase in the infection rates. So there are some countries who are preparing for that kind of a thing. God forbid, I do not want to forecast, but God forbid if there is another semi or partial lockdown that comes up in states. I don't expect it to happen at a national level post-October, but even if it comes at states, these things will affect the economy to a great extent, and the fear that it will put into people's mind.
Currently,
stop spending on
it's a factor. I mean, we are in the B2B exhibition space, B2B
Exactly.
event space. Yesterday, the government has said 15th October it's open, but I'm myself not confident. Today,
Exactly.
8 of my colleagues were at my home. We did a meeting, and they were pushing for the office to open. I said, no, till 1st November, no office will be open, because there is a fear factor. And I've been going out doing meetings, but I have my own responsibility plus the responsibility of my colleagues. So there, you look at cinema halls, you look at hotels, they are, in spite of being open, hotels are not at more than 10-12% of their levels, except in some exceptional circumstances where the number of rooms is less. So 70% gives you a very kind of a not so true picture. If it has 14 rooms and 11 are occupied, that's 70%, but that's not a lot of rooms. So I want to at this point ask you 2 questions, and Megha, please join in.
Yes.
One is, when do you really see the Indian economy back? 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months? And I want to know why. You alluded to it in your answers. Second, what are your top lockdown lessons? What have you learned as individuals, professionals, entrepreneurs that will hold you in good stead in this new abnormal? There's nothing normal about it. And I hope we don't settle into this normal.
Yeah.
We come out of this normal. So tell us, what are your top lockdown lessons? And when do you see the Indian economy back in full bloom? Let me start this time with Sumitro.
Yeah. So, Anurag, I think my top lockdown lesson is the old business model, frankly, works better. I think there was
The Marwadi, the
Yeah.
shopkeeper.
So I was
How
in-
much have I earned today? मेरे गल्ले में कितने पैसे आए आज?
Exactly. So I'll tell you, I was in Stanford in January this year, and the great debate was going, and the entire explanation was on scalability. But I think businesses who have been able to save and then have a limited scale rather than investing complete savings and borrowings and on a cash burn mechanism went on scale, they are facing a lot of music, except the e-commerce platform. And I think that old model of saving and of the percentage, which is the basics, you get 1 rupee, save 50 paisa, use 50 paisa for expansion, that works fine in the COVID time. And businesses who have been doing that are still sailing through. Means, for example, what kind of a business are we talking about if industries could not held on to their own members of the organization for 1.5 months or 2 months of lockdown? How fragile the fundamentals of these businesses were. So, these businesses who
We're talking of large corporations.
Yeah.
We're just talking of small and mid-sized companies.
No, exactly. So, the fundamentals are bringing, COVID has brought back into that reality, number one. So that's the lockdown lesson that, go the old principle way.
Profit, costs have to be less than profits.
Yeah. So your
sounds so simple. Didn't happen for many years.
Yeah. But now that's the way I think post-lockdown businesses.
So you're saying less is more, focus on what produces output.
Yeah.
It
has to be sustainable.
Impact, growth without profitability doesn't make sense.
Correct. And you have to take care of your guys, of your folks in the office. You cannot, because your safety, your industry's safety is now directly related to their safety. So you have to take care of them. Number one, that's the lockdown lesson that at least from me I have learned. Although we have been practicing that, but we have learned. Number two is, if you are asking me the economy too, I think the level of confidence, once the level of fear goes out and a certain amount of confidence comes in, both in terms of the receiver and the giver, I think the economy is going to take a shape. I think it's going to take not less than 18 months, but somewhere around 18 to 21 months. Because once, the arrival of the vaccine in any part of the world happens, that news coming down that it's on the way is going to push in some positive confidence into people. I don't know when it is coming to India and by what time the entire population will get it. That's another discussion. But I think once we have a positive feedback on the vaccine, or at least a roadmap, I think the confidence will come back, and until and unless the confidence comes back, both the spending is the consumption is not going to increase to that level.
It's a little broader. Soumitra, I want to ask, how's your brain wired differently pre-COVID and post-COVID?
So I think I was not, personally speaking, I was not very tech friendly. I was more of a paper and pen. We have exchanged views on it. But to be very frank, now I think technology is not an option. It is a force multiplier. And frankly speaking, I've been hearing people and I have been not convinced, but now I didn't need to hear people. The situation convinced me that technology is the way to go. But please,
every business has to be a tech business.
Yeah.
It has to be a news tech business, media tech business, health tech. If technology is not the driver and also the enabler, then you're possibly under leveraged. I wouldn't say the business doesn't exist, but you're under leveraged. Sukesh, your top lockdown lessons, and when do you see the economy coming back?
I think I will go completely, +1 with what Soumitra mentioned. Coming from a hardcore business, so we were, as a business, were a little too optimistic, experimenting with new launches, new product all the time. Oh, okay, we will bring 5, 3 will work, 2 will go down, and we were pretty okay with it. But I think I am completely in sync with Soumitra. I think the old model of doing business, where you, as you said, you keep your cost and your profit in sync. Even if you're not making money, make sure you're not losing money. So that was the basic lesson of business, which we always been taught, but we were not really following it from quite a while. And in fact, a lot of the market scenario was like that. Our competitors, our
Stick to your core competency. Stick to what you do well.
Absolutely.
Focus on lesser things, lesser product lines.
Right.
Strengthen that.
Yes. Whatever you do good. Don't just keep stretching, keep expanding without really looking at the bottom lines, which has really been, in fact,
growth at all costs doesn't work anymore.
Absolutely. So I have seen a lot of my fellow brands going down, people losing their business, shutting down their businesses, just because I think we were just lucky enough that we were really not too, on a very high risk growth path where where things could go really wrong and we could bleed that very much. I think that was a really good lesson. Second question was that when I think my economy coming back, I think maybe I'm a little more optimistic than what Soumitra mentioned, but maybe I'm thinking next Diwali could be a better Diwali. I think things should pick up by August, September next year.
In Punjabi they say, "Aapke muh mein ghee shakkar." So I hope you have that ghee shakkar soon. And I hope the doomsday theories are all proven wrong, but I'm not an astrologer or a futurist. But we're all hoping. But they say hope is not a plan. Akshay, when do you see the economy coming back? in a full way. Of course, sectorally, some sectors will do well.
Yeah.
And second, what are your top lockdown lessons?
So again, for us, I think we're a little bit more optimistic. I think next financial year we're hoping will be significantly better. So the GDP contraction we saw in the first quarter, I think when we look at the next financial year, we're expecting things to be a lot better. And again, we're optimistic.
And why? Qualify why?
I'll tell you why. Because, for example, we're seeing spending starting to come back. So we see a huge volume of transactions. We have a lot of data in our company because we power a lot of e-commerce transactions, and we're seeing spending slowly start to come back last month. We're seeing, well, actually, it's come back ferociously, I would say, last month. I think now that we're in the festive season, the word slow is starting to creep back into my dictionary, because when you do year-on-year comparisons, yes, the start of the festive season has not been even close to what prior years has been. But I think we speak to a lot of startups, we speak to a lot of consumer brands, and they are seeing a lot of traction. Again, they're year on year, you can't compare. I think this year is going to be a write-off. You can't do any year on year comparisons. But I think a lot of them are saying that starting January next year, they are expecting a lot more demand to start coming back into their sectors. Again, like you said, I have a slightly rose-tinted view because I'm in a part of the industry which is actually benefiting from the lockdowns that we've had. But we speak to a lot of, again, SMEs, hardcore entrepreneurs, and I think business models are adapting. I think consumer spending is the biggest question. I think all of us are right now worried about, will the Indian consumer be willing to spend that rupee out there when he is not sure on his income for the next year? And I think that's anybody's guess. You can put on a news channel and 4 economists will give you 4 different views.
By the way, news channels, we don't discuss lives and livelihood. We discuss Bollywood and related things, to be polite.
That's a whole different...
There is life beyond a while. We mourn the loss of a great star, and we also are not for consumption of materials that shouldn't be consumed. But I think we need to focus on livelihoods. And that's why Newsx and Business World came together. Because a health crisis, which turned into a livelihood crisis, it has impacted lives of people. Megha, you may want to ask a few questions.
Yes, absolutely. It has impacted. A lot of people have been mentioning over here, and quite understandably, that the old model is the one that needs to be revived back. And rightfully so, because there has been a fatigue that has cropped in when it comes to work from home. And Sukesh, if you could just go ahead and elaborate that while there are companies, the bigwigs like the Googles and the Facebooks of the world, that can go ahead and afford to have the work from home lifestyle continuing even for the 2021 year, where they've gone ahead and said that yes, the employees can sit back at home and do that. How is it difficult to go ahead and bring about a similar model when it comes to other job profiles and other businesses that go ahead and continue to face a lot of problems with regards to bringing an economy that is going to go ahead and allow them to continue in a fashion that was prior to the March 2020.
I can't hear you loud and clear. Can you please
Okay, the question to you over here being, why is it that a work from home model is fatiguing for quite a number of businesses that are facing a lot of problem, while the bigwigs, when it comes to e-commerce, when it comes to social media, when it comes to all these OTT platforms, they go ahead and start commencing work, and they have gone ahead and provided this alternative to their employees to go ahead and work until 2021 as well. I think majority of the businesses go ahead and continue to suffer from this setback that has been brought about by the pandemic. How do you go about suggesting changes? And obviously you cannot throw caution to the wind. And you go ahead and also mention that it's going to take 18 months or more to go ahead and bring about an economy that is going to be parallelly in any sort of conjunction to the pre-coronavirus days. How do we go about doing that? And what are the practical challenges that you will go ahead and face in going ahead and fighting this entire lockdown, if one may say?
Right, so I think I got some piece of the question. So one is for sure, working from home is for sure is more fatiguing. It's more tiring. I think I kept figuring out what exactly this is, and I think the logic is when you are in a conference room, when you're talking to each other face to face, a lot of these things are unsaid, and you read from the facial expression and you figure out which direction the discussion should go. And is the other guy on the other side is really attentive, whether he's listening, not listening, and responding. Those facial expressions, those body languages really play a lot of role in a conversation. But when you are on a conference call, when you are on these Zoom calls and Skype calls, etc., half of the time we don't even switch on the camera. So we don't even know whether the other guy is really responding, listening, or he is doing 5 other things in parallel. And then there are a lot of background noises. We have our own challenges of network challenges, voice not really coming up, so on and so forth. So that actually this is more tiresome. End of the day, I remember when you work 10 hours in an office and versus maybe 5 hours on offline mode, work from home, this becomes more tiresome. And I think, to be honest, all said and done, our homes are not really designed for work from home practice. We never made a home in India specifically. We never, having a library kind of concept is practically not there in most of the middle class, even in a.
At best, there is a study geared for one person, which sometimes the spouse use interchangeably. Now, if you have 2 kids, you need 2 separate rooms for their education.
Correct.
If both the husband and wife are professionals, then they need 2 separate rooms. They're entrepreneurs. So you're right. And Megha, let me, as an entrepreneur who works with 300 odd people, let me say that, and I've said this consistently, and I really maintain it, presentism, as my friend Paul Dupee at Randstad always says, is about, showing up in office. Doesn't mean outcomes, doesn't mean productivity. Similarly, showing up for a webinar or a virtual interaction doesn't mean you're fully in it. And I have said this before in NewsX, and let me say that there are a group of set of individuals that were motivated before COVID, and they continue to be motivated post-COVID, and they produce. But not everyone's output and productivity is the same. And there's no way to check. You also have to be a little soft on people, because there is an unsaid grief of not being able to get out of home, not being able to do the things. And so clearly, I am not a big believer in all 6 days or 5 days, depending on what kind of business you're in, work from home. I would call it flexi home, maybe once or twice from home and once and twice from office. I think we need a mix. But I don't think blanket saying work from home work. Yes, you avoid traffic jams, you save time on travel, those are the positives. You can get more done in a day, that's the positive. But is every colleague of yours geared up for work from home? No. Anyway, let's get Akshay and Sumitra's inputs. Akshay?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Dr. Anurag. I think, so what we've adopted is a flexi policy. Like you said, we have certain teams who come into the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We have certain teams who come in Tuesday, Thursday. We're still less than 20% occupancy in the office in terms of having people there, only the most essential people, because when you have customer-facing roles, like Sukesh said as well, not everyone has that setup to be able to do customer calls from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. without having somebody banging thalis or things in the background. And they want to come to office because they actually feel that they feel more comfortable. So in those cases, we opened up. But again, we opened up our office a month ago with less than 10% capacity to start with, ramped it up to 20%. And again, we're telling people you have to be careful, right? If anyone we're doing sanitization, we're doing checks. But again, I don't think work from home long term is going to be a solution for startups such as ours. And it's fatigue. It's like you stay at home 5 days a week. You can on a webinar or on a Zoom meeting, right? Keep on telling people. Like now, I have to actually tell people, please put on your cameras, because I think the norm is cameras have to be off. And when you started work from home in April, everyone was really enthusiastic. Cameras used to be on. And when you can't see somebody, like, you don't know what's happening, right? The guy could be watching the IPL for all you know while you're going on and on and on.
That's a good idea. Akshay, that's a good idea. Megha, that's a very good idea Akshay has given to us. But we get you. I mean, the level of involvement is different. And dare I say, last 4 days I've done reviews. Sales team was in the office. They were happy to be in the office, talk to each other, have the meal. Today, my audience team was with me at my home. Yesterday, my circulation and my finance team, they were so happy. I had to tell them, go back to their homes. Because it's just, office is not about just working, it's about social connection. It's about having a conversation. They all had a meal. I've never seen my colleagues so happy having a meal at my home, all of them. So clearly office is, the modern day office has to be an outing. It doesn't have to be an office. I think that's what my view is. Sumitra, your view?
Anurag, actually, we assumed this is going to be the situation. So, we started operating with a limited capacity from July 1st week, I think. And the reason being that, the moment the lockdown happened, we in fact locked down our offices 5 days before the lockdown because preempt.
We did it about 10 days before the lockdown.
Yeah, so we
cancelled our 2 events in March. We finished an event on 4th March, our HR event, and then we had a women's event on the 8th, which we cancelled. And subsequent to in March, in revenue terms, was the worst month for me, individually in terms of billing.
Right. So, what we did is we entirely renovated our complete office structure, keeping in mind social distancing measures and multiple sanitization things. But one problem that we faced is our main work is on the field. At the time of the pandemic, part of our team was here, but all our projects were going on the ground and they were actually dealing with COVID situation. So that is where, I must give accolade to the team that they were working continuously. But yes, you're right. The moment the office opened, the way people came back was like how you see students running out of the school at the end of the day, and they came back to office, and I saw pretty long hours, people without even a request now putting in long hours.
Colleagues have been outstanding. I think, they had to deal with, not everyone has large homes. They have to deal with their own issues, the salaries being cut down because business is necessary. So I would say in my companies, the colleagues have been outstanding.
Absolutely.
I only have gratitude for them.
Absolutely.
And hopefully going forward in a couple of months, we'll be able to show that gratitude in action.
Yes, that's right.
Bringing back salaries. And media is a tough sector. While news channels have seen increase in viewership, advertising hasn't been that forthcoming. This month and the next month may be exceptions, but the viewership increase hasn't necessarily led to revenue increase. But we started to see at least 50% of the advertising is coming back. So that's a good sign. We were at 10%, we are at 60% today. So, it's a good sign. That means the economy is getting better, especially for a lot of categories. And Diwali and IPL clearly help. So that's what it is. Megha, before we close the show, any question you'd like to post to the panelists?
Well, I'll just like to say to all my panelists over here and all the viewers over here that tough times do not last, tough people do. And I thank you all for joining me on this very special broadcast. Thank you, Dr. Batra, for going ahead and bringing this set of panelists who've gone ahead and obviously widened my horizons and the horizons of all the viewers who are watching this very special broadcast on NewsX. Tomorrow is going to be another special panel that is going to be brought about. We'll talk about business, we'll talk about reviving the economy, and we'll bring a number of these stalwarts who go about with these ideas to bring about a change and bring about and disrupting this particular market during difficult times. On that note, I slip into a short break.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.